afternoon, and thanks so much for joining us for this breaking news cut-in here on WLTX Plus. Right now, we are just moments away from hearing from 12-year-old Jaysen Carr's family for the first time. We have crews set up over on Bull Street. Let's take a listen.
Carr, to his left is Ebony Carr. They're the parents of Jaysen Carr, who, as everybody knows, unfortunately, tragically lost his life on July 18th after fighting for his life. And what we're here to do today is, one, the Carrs wanted to address the media, discussing, one, their appreciation for all the community support that they've received throughout this heart-wrenching process, but also we're going to discuss some questions that they want answered, and I'll discuss what our independent investigation has revealed so far. We'll take some questions after that. So I'll let y'all hear from Clarence and Ebony now. Thank you. Okay.
Hello, everybody. First of all, I want to tell you a little bit about my son. It would be hard for me to say these are just friends. Everyone here is family. Jaysen knew family wasn't always blood, and he saw the world as if it were a sunset. He never judged. He was full of hope. He was full of love and acceptance. He was an inclusive person, no matter what race, ethnicity, background, gender, it did not matter. I never heard Jaysen say he liked someone. He either loved you or he just simply did not know who you were. I've told this story time and time again. We've been in places like a jump park, and Jaysen would come up 5 minutes later and say, "Hey, this is my new friend." I say, "You just met this guy." He said, "This is my friend, Dad." So that's the person he was. He was a multi-sport athlete to be just 12 years old. He played 3 different divisions of baseball, and that doesn't include playing B team and also JV for Dreher High School. Not many people realize Jaysen was actually a grade ahead. He was supposed to be in the 6th grade, but was still able to compete against athletes 15, 16 years old. Jaysen was a musician. He played multiple instruments in band. Not only that, he made first chair with flute. He was even in honor band. We didn't even discover this part until after his death, but Jaysen was a part of a program at school that helped special needs students. So they would actually go to the classrooms and get these students and go to the gym and just spend time with them. He was that type of person. And every time you saw him, he had a big smile on his face. Right now, his mother is wearing his headband from All-State. He was an All-State champion. And also a tiger representing him, which has his heartbeat in it. This is a very tough situation. We're doing the best that we can. But just understand, we do not want this to happen to anyone else. We're here to raise public awareness and go from there.
Thank you, Clarence.
Yes, sir.
Ebony, would you like to say anything?
Just a few words. He was our middle child. So with a younger brother and an older sister, he played that role well. He was a great big brother, great role model, and he also was very protective of his older sister as well. He truly had the gift of love, compassion, the athleticism, and that big smile that everybody loved about him. We're still in shock about how all this happened. Had we known the risk of him swimming in that lake, nobody would have ever chosen to get in. So we definitely want the public to know that there are major risks swimming in Lake Murray and any other body of water or any other lake that's around as well. So there needs to definitely be some awareness about it, and we don't want his death to be in vain, because had we known, he wouldn't have been in it.
And so the Carr family is committed to making sure that there's long-lasting change as part of Jaysen's legacy. And some things that we found out so far is that Lake Murray, people are confused and think it's just a public body of water. Lake Murray is owned by Dominion Energy. It's a very sophisticated public-private partnership. Lake Dominion Energy owns Lake Murray for purposes of creating energy, and the Department of Environmental Services handles the testing of water and things of that nature. Currently, as the status quo is right now, the Department of Environmental Services tests 122 beaches for bacteria that can be harmful, and then they issue PSAs if the levels are found to be harmful. There is no funding directed to our lakes that host the most, our residents who like to get some reprieve from the heat during the summer months. And Jaysen was a smart kid. If he would have known that the risk of this deadly amoeba in consistent waters that are above 80 degrees could turn deadly, he would not have swam in that water. And that's what needs to be done. We're asking, and the Carr family wants to see some policy changes here. The state already has a mechanism in place for testing bodies of water. They've done that for our beaches because our beaches are what attracts tourism, but our lakes is where the residents go. And there should not be a distinguishing between the two. They have the same system in place. So one thing we'll be asking for is that the Department of Environmental Services immediately convene to start that testing. And the most tragic thing that really upset me and the Carrs as well is nobody ever reached out to them. Not one agency head. There's never any testing of the water. There's no questioning of where Jaysen was swimming and playing in the water to figure out where this happened. That's the whole purpose of an independent investigation, because we're doing the work that the agency should have done. You have 5 law enforcement agencies on Lake Murray: Saluda County Sheriff's Department, Newberry County Sheriff's Department, Richland County Sheriff's Department, Lexington County Sheriff's Department, and the Department of Natural Resources. If somebody dies in a single car accident, car wreck, there's a mate report. If somebody died in a boat wreck, there will be an investigation of it. But you have kids who are playing in the water, everybody using the water, and if somebody dies of a deadly amoeba, which could have been tested for, and PSAs could have been put out there, there's no testing that has ever been done. I find it hard to believe that we're standing here today and nobody has ever called the Carrs to even say, how are you doing? Where was your son at? We need to stop and test this area and figure out how we could make sure other people are safe. And so that's a huge red flag. And also, we're asking for legislation to be passed so that this can be taken care of. It probably will require that this Naegleria fowleria, if I pronounce it wrong, y'all fix it, please, okay? That be added to the reportable diseases. Currently, right now, there are infections. If they're caught, DHEC or Department of Environmental Services will make a report of that, and they'll immediately conduct the investigation. There should never be a situation where a child loses life playing in Lake Murray, doing what kids do, and the agencies and departments that the reason why people feel safe do not do anything. No reports, no phone calls, no follow-up, no investigation. And that's why we're doing that today. And the Carrs, we talked earlier today, and they were talking about the legacy of Jaysen and how Jaysen was a fighter. He worked hard. He wouldn't quit. And they're not going to quit till something is done. Currently, the status quo on Lake Murray is to protect Dominion Energy's financial interests. And the same type of mechanisms that are in place for our beaches should be in place at our lakes and other fresh body waters across the state. And with global warming and consistent heat waves that we had, the water of Lake Murray is hot. And the statistics showing how this amoeba turns deadly in these heat waves is factual. It's out there. We need PSAs so people can make their own informed decisions. They can say it's rare, but to the Carrs, it's not rare. They lost their son, and nothing's going to bring them back. So we'll take a few questions that y'all may have. If anything that the Carrs can't answer, I may step in and just be respectful of that. But starting to the left.
Attorney Bailey, given that Representative Bill Hickson chairs the House Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Environment Affairs Committee, will you be calling on him and his Republican colleagues to hold emergency hearings and mandate seasonal testing for Naegleria fowleri, especially now that EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin is planning to revoke the legal basis for tackling climate change, which we know creates the warm water conditions that you just talked about?
Yeah, we'll talk to any and everybody who could help change policy and legislation. Republican, Democrat, Independent, it does not matter. We'll talk to them. And if they need to have hearings, that's fine, but we want action. That's what we want, action and changes. Because as of right now, we have a heat advisory today. You see that there are heat advisories that are put out by Dominion Energy along with the Department of Public Health, but there's nothing notifying anybody about the amoeba that could be deadly in Lake Murray and other fresh body waters right now.
Caroline Yop from the WSBA. You're talking about passing laws, doing legislation like that. What are your next steps? Like tomorrow, what is the first thing on your to-do list?
Yeah, we're still conducting our investigation. The information that I told y'all today, y'all did not read about that in the paper. Nobody said anything about Dominion Energy. Nobody talked about the public-private partnership. Y'all haven't heard anything about the 122 beaches that have been checked. So we've done some work already. There's only so much that we can do without subpoena power and things of that nature. But the Carr family was focused on laying their son to rest, who just had his funeral on Saturday. There was a viewing on Friday, and now we're addressing the media on Tuesday. We'll take more steps. We're hoping that some awareness from this, hopefully some people reach out, immediately discuss some legislation that could be passed. I did talk to Representative Jermaine Johnson today. He said he's interested in possibly pre-filing a bill to cover this in December, but we want some immediate steps done by agency heads who have that power to go ahead and implement these things.
Sure. Well, Jaysen had spent some time during the 4th of July holiday with friends. And once we came home, he started complaining of a headache. And we gave him some Tylenol, watched him. He said he felt better. So we just assumed it was a regular migraine or headache, just like any other person would have. The next day, he complained of the same headache. So we decided to take him to the doctor and get checked out. So we went to the ER. They gave him a shot, Toradol, I believe, and they checked on him. As time went by, we asked him how he was feeling. He said, "I do feel better." So again, it seemed as though he had a regular migraine. The next day, we were at practice. Practice ended early, and he wanted to go hang out at a friend's house. So everything appeared to be normal. No reason for alarm. While at a friend's house, the friend's mother texted us and said, "Jaysen is complaining of that headache again." And shortly thereafter, she texted back again and said, "Hey, he's vomiting." Immediately, we decided to go get him because being a multi-sport athlete, I either thought, one, he was dehydrated, or two, maybe he had a concussion because he also plays football, something he didn't tell me about. Immediately took him to the hospital. Well, first of all, we knew something was wrong because Jaysen left us in the house and went out to the truck. And when we got to the door, he was telling us, "Come on, I gotta go." And that's not like him. He pushes through anything. So this was uncommon. As soon as he said that, we were grabbing keys. He walked into the hospital on his own, breathing on his own. Yes, he was experiencing a bad headache. We got to the ER, and the way it progressed from there was slowly. Okay, he still had the headache. He vomited in the ER, but he was able to pinpoint the pain in his head. In hindsight 2020, this was no headache. He was being attacked. He pinpointed the area on the right side of his head. He said, "My head hurts on the right side right here. The front of my head hurts, and my left eye." So the doctors began treatment. They really didn't have a definitive answer as to what was going on other than his symptoms, which was a headache and vomiting. There was no fever. There was nothing telling them that, hey, he's got an infection or anything leading up to it. They did test. They did decide to put him on antibiotics right away. They also did a spinal tap to try to rule out meningitis, seeing as though he was in the water. We did disclose that he was in Lake Murray. We did tell them that. And I'm pretty sure in the back of their mind they had that concern but did not, want to speak on it just yet, which was the right thing to do, find out the facts first. They did the spinal tap. They did the culture. We waited to see if anything grows. During that time, he did spike a fever, I believe, the next day, and that kind of gave the doctors some direction on where to go, indicating there's an infection. From there, things just kind of progressively got worse. He was still responding, Jaysen was still responding, but he became more and more lethargic as time went on. He would respond to me and his mother, but we would have to force a response. We would almost have to shake him and make him talk. But even through the medication and sedation, he kept fighting through it. When we spoke to him, he would squeeze his aunt's hand. When his mother and I spoke to him, he would respond by pulling us, doing the things that he could do. He even reached up during one of the nurse's procedures. They were adjusting his IVs. He just put his left arm in the air, and he was sedated. He was intubated as well. But he knew enough to know that he was in trouble. He lifted his left arm in the air for them to put the IV in that one because they were having trouble with the right arm. Not only that, later they decided to change the sedation. Again, he fought through it to the point where he was still trying to assist the surgeon when they were putting the port in his head. He reached up through sedation, pulling his hair to the side so that they can do the procedure. I have never witnessed anyone with the will to fight like my son, and I probably won't ever. He refused to quit. I never taught him what that meant. I never expected him to lay down and just let this happen. He was given, I think, a day. Most people don't make it to the hospital. Most people perish before they're even aware something's wrong. He knew something was wrong. He spoke up about it, and we listened. Jaysen fought for another week on his back. And anyone that thinks this is rare should possibly put themselves in our shoes and consider just how rare is it when your loved one is the one that was affected. A child should not have to lose their life for doing something they assumed was safe. They should not have to double check to see if they are going to live or die from being a boy. He had a weekend full of fishing, swimming, boating, tubing. That's it. That's all he did. He was a great kid. He loved his friends. He just wanted to smile and wanted everyone else in the world to do the same thing. He should still be here, and there's absolutely no excuse why he shouldn't be.
Can I ask really quickly, you've expressed interest in sharing the story so that other parents don't have to go through the same thing.
Yes.
Can I ask you in reaction to DPH's policy about not having to inform the public about this because it is so rare?
Yes, I did.
Let me start with that.
Yes.
First, Justin, I'll let him give his natural reaction. DPH put it out there that it's not so rare, but they don't test for it. So they really can't prove if it's that rare. As you heard Mr. Carr just say, most people don't make it to the hospital. So, how about my comment is I think DPH should look at their policies right now. They should test for it. They should investigate any reportable incidents like Jaysen's, and then maybe revisit if it's so rare. And the loss of one's life, I mean, even if you say it's rare, if someone's infected, it's deadly. It's all but certain they're more than likely not going to survive. And that risk is just too high to roll a dice or flip a coin about our most vulnerable young people losing their life doing something that is a advertised recreational attraction throughout the state. But Ms. Carr, you answer that question if you could.
The answer that I'll give you is this. I might not be factual with the numbers, but let's just say I am. I think there have been about 167 cases reported in the U.S., somewhere in that ballpark. With that being said, 10 or so cases reported in the U.S. yearly. We could break that down again and say, out of those 167 cases, there were only 4 survivors. The word risk should mean something. It does to me, especially now. If there was a risk, people are looking at the wrong number associated with risk. Okay, 1 in every 200,000, 1 in every 500,000. Don't focus on that 500,000. Focus on that one person that could possibly be saved by something as simple as a precaution, by something as simple as a warning, anything. I'll also say this, as far as not being reportable, how accurate is that number? Only 10 reported in the U.S. How do we know if it's not being reported? That number has to be skewed. That's not accuracy. I would think that everyone going to that lake or any other body of water in this state would assume that they would leave with their family intact. We're missing one. And the only thing we did was go spend time with our family. This is our family. It has no boundaries. It has no race. It has no hue. Family isn't always blood. And when you're missing one, it hurts. It hurts deeply. It wasn't just us. It was an entire community that is devastated by this. Jaysen was somebody. Every one of these kids is somebody. And they all deserve a chance to grow, to live, become model citizens, to do all the dreams that they have in life. But my son isn't here anymore to experience any of that. And he had his whole future laid out in front of him. So that's my answer.
Where on Lake Murray you believe that you contracted this?
I'll refer
Well,
to my attorney.
The public agency should have conducted an investigation. Our investigation is going to look into the location or locations. That's the gap in the department's policy right now. They should have immediately reached out to investigate this and sealed off those areas and did some testing. They didn't do that. So we'll get back to you on that information. And I think that goes to the Department of Public Health working to restore the public trust in our freshbody lakes. Because as of right now, there's countless people who are not going to be letting their kids to swim in the lakes until there's some action taken by the department, especially on hot days like this with global warming. Cases have historically been in the south, but they're moving further up north in Maryland and other areas, and that's because our water temperatures are hotter and hotter for longer periods of time. And so to answer your question again, we can't give that information right now. I would love to see if the Department of Natural Resources, Department of Environmental Services, if they have conducted any investigation, which we believe they have not.
Can you cover again what type of communications the state agency should be making about Nagliaria fowleri with the general public?
Yeah, so for example, today it's probably feels like 105 degrees, right? There's heat advisories that Dominion Energy puts out there along with the Department of Health telling people about pets, elderly to be aware of the heat. And so we know statistically that amoeba in fresh body waters is more likely to be deadly if the water temperature is above 80 degrees. And we also know that Dominion Energy does keep track of water levels and water temperatures to protect their profit-making machine and their own fiscal interests. Then that same advisory should go out and say something like this. If you're going to Lake Murray today, just please be aware, amoeba, if it's in the lake, its water temperature is above 80 degrees, be aware of that. Enjoy the lake, but watch your children, make sure they're covering their noses, or things of that nature. Just small little things, because right now they're not saying anything, and they know that you could die if you contract it. So hopefully there will be some changes after this, but just a short advisory like that will go a long way. And maybe in the areas where people swim frequently, the beaches and some of the parks, put some signs up letting people know. If you're going to be out here, that this is a risk that can happen. You can say, although rare, or whatever language they want to put, let people make their own informed decisions. Well, we have a lot of fresh body lakes, think Lake Watery, Lake Murray, and other lakes like that. I'm not sure right now there's any mechanism in place outside of the beach testing that they do that could be duplicated in fresh lakes. I do think even though if they're working with other special interest groups who are concerned about water quality for purposes of, wildlife, but also for consumption and drinking, I think that's great, but we need some public scrutiny towards it. And so I think it should be the government who's the one who takes on that responsibility, given that's what the agency is here to do, is to, so this is a public health agency. This was a public health failure, and it's an opportunity for them to restore public trust by making some changes. Any other questions? Anything else y'all want to say? No? Thank you all for your time. Thank you to the Carr's family, not just their blood family, but everybody who's out there. For those of y'all who are watching, keep them in your thoughts and prayers as they continue to grieve. It's not going to get easier for them. And also, if you're paying attention, call your legislator. Say that you want to see some changes. Call the agency heads. Ask about the death of Jaysen and what they can do to change, because that's what one thing we want to see Jaysen's legacy do, is to make things safer for everybody. I mean, he was a fighter throughout his life. He was truly a one-of-a-kind, special person that there's no telling what he could have done. But this is going to be one thing that's part of his story. And so please stay tuned. We're going to continue our investigation. There'll be more things discussed, more steps taken, and the Carr family's not going to quit. But thank you.
Well, if you're just joining us now, a press conference just wrapped up where we heard from the family of 12-year-old Jaysen Carr for the first time since his tragic death. Now, if you remember, Carr passed away earlier this month after contracting a form of a brain-eating amoeba. Now, according to the state health officials, they believe he did contract that infection over on Lake Murray, and the family just confirming now that this all started after he was swimming in the lake, fishing in the lake over on Lake Murray on July 4th with some friends. But before they got to those details, they did recap the type of person that Jaysen was, saying that he was an athlete, he was lovable, he was caring, he was a musician, a star musician, they added, and helped his peers any chance that he could. The family added that they held this press conference because they wanted to raise awareness on this issue, saying that had they known about this rare form of an amoeba, they wouldn't have let him get into the lake, they wouldn't have allowed any of their family members to get into that lake, saying that they wouldn't want this to happen to anyone else, so they want to raise awareness, I should say, on this issue. And I do have a couple of notes that they mentioned about the timeline from when Jaysen started presenting these symptoms. They say that his first symptoms that he was showing after he swam in the lake on July 4th was a few days after. They said he presented and started with a headache. Now, that headache lasted a day or two, and once they realized that wasn't going away anytime soon, they did take him to urgent care where he did get checked out. They say after that, he did go back home where he started to experience some vomiting. They say once he was at a friend's house, that headache did persist, and then it was added with some vomiting, so that's when they knew they needed to take him to the ER. Now, once in the ER, that's when they say doctors began running some more heavy treatments. They said that he did have a spinal tap, and that's when he did spike a fever. The family says that unfortunately that's when things did take a turn for Jaysen. Now, the family added that, again, had they known the risk, they wouldn't have let him swim or participate in any activities over in Lake Murray. Now, they did have a family attorney present. You did hear from Tyler Bailey there, who says that they are calling on state reps to make it a requirement to have testing in our fresh waters. They say the Department of Health does not currently track these cases, and that's exactly why that some of these we see it being so rare. They say that because the Department of Health does not track these cases, and they're calling on the Department of Health to begin testing these waters. They also added that there should be signs warning folks. They are calling on action, warning folks who are out over on the lake. They would like to see signage posted over on near our fresh waters for folks to be cautious if they are going to be entering the waters. Now, of course, when this all happened, News 19 did reach out to several doctors. We have information over on our website about signs, symptoms, prevention that you can read up on if you're interested. Of course, all of that information is over on our website at WLTX.com. For now, those are the details we know so far. Of course, we'll continue to keep you updated on this case. Tyler Bailey said they will be continuing an investigation after Jaysen's tragic death. Now, of course, all these details from the press conference today and what I just mentioned will be over on our website. Of course, as always, that's WLTX.com. Thank you so much for joining us.